We were
Yeah.
recently having a conversation with somebody on when is the right time to start praying as a couple,
Yeah.
which really caught me off guard because in my mind, I'm like, the sooner you can start praying together, the better.
Mm-hmm.
That's just with me.
Yeah.
That's my thing is like whether it's in a friendship or relationship, whether it's with family, friends, whatever, I think the sooner you start praying, the better because it is never too early to involve God and prayer in a relationship.
Exactly.
But is there a right time to start praying together? Because as
I
as
think
somebody
for-
mentioned before, it is a very personal thing to bring up, especially when you are praying together. So is there a right time? I don't know.
Well, when we talk about right time, I think it's different based off of situation because our situation, we're both Catholic and we're both very strong in our faith and striving, and we're both constantly trying to grow and learn.
And that's one thing that kind of reassured me in us starting to date is we Is it recording?
It's recording.
Are you comfortable?
Are you comfortable?
I am. I have my blanket and everything.
I know. Your
and my
usual throw.
pillows.
Yeah, they are your
This
pillows.
is my Kelly blanket here at your house.
It is your
It's
Kelly
so
blanket.
soft.
It's so soft. Oh my God. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Abraham Salas Show. I'm your host, Abraham Salas. He who named this podcast after himself. We'll work on that for season 2. We'll probably.
Are you gonna give yourself a new name, or not yourself, but the podcast a new name?
Hopefully, I'm praying on it and thinking on it. You know, I'm gonna bounce ideas off of you. So, yeah. In case y'all are wondering who this amazing young woman is, this is my beautiful girlfriend, Kelly Reyes. I have been trying to get her on the show for a while now. We are not going to lie about that. We're going to be straight up front with it. There was some hesitation.
Yeah.
And because the topic is that we're going to be talking about is like, oh, you asked me like why, what qualifies me
Oh yeah.
was a question. Like
Yeah.
what qualifies me to talk about Catholic dating?
Yeah. You've been trying to get me on for a little bit, and I kept every time you would ask me, I would go, well, what qualifies me, Abraham? And finally, you came to me and you're like, you're in a Catholic relationship.
Yeah.
We're in a Catholic relationship. Right there, I mean, you can speak about your own experience.
Yeah.
And that right there qualifies you. I was like, oh, okay, you got me.
Yeah, because everybody has different experiences. And,
Yeah.
like, I mean, we learn so much from Catholic married couples that come speak and things like that. But I think it's rare that you hear from people who are currently in it. And also, like, we're not flaunting our relationship around either. Like, we're perfect.
Oh, because we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And we're constantly learning from each other
Yeah.
and just
learning
growing
about
as a
each other.
person.
Yeah.
Individually and together. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think what a way to end the season finale. End season 1 and with our finale, and hopefully transition to a new life of the show in season 2 with more topics like this, and that can be maybe a little bit more controversial with and things like that. Start more conversations up in the church, because that's what we want to do, is help grow the church.
You
But
need more women.
we do. I do need more women.
I'm your first.
You
on
are
the
my
show, right?
first. I would love to have a sister on.
A nun?
A nun. Yeah, because I've had none.
Oh my gosh, Abraham.
The fact that you laugh and roll your eyes is proof that you've been with me long enough. We've been together for 2 years too.
Yes, we just celebrated 2 years this past Tuesday
Yes, I know.
on the 17th.
It's crazy.
Good
crazy.
job.
Let-
Teamwork.
Teamwork. Teamwork. Let's go ahead and put Kelly up for sainthood, everybody, because she's dealt with me for 2 years. I'm kidding. I am hard to deal with, though. I will not lie. But like we said,
I will
we're
not
always.
lie either, but I'm also hard to deal with.
I know, 2 peas in a pod.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so today our topic is, like I said, like we said, on Catholic relationships, but more importantly on how to really bring your faith into your relationship. I think it's something that a lot of couples struggle with. I think struggle with that a little bit at the beginning of like,
Struggle with what?
like praying together and
Oh, yeah.
going into evangelization together, which we did naturally. And I
because we were both doing that separately before
Yeah.
we ever started a relationship or even met each other.
yeah.
We were already evangelizing in our own parishes in our own way, when we met each other, we were evangelizing together just because that's kind of how we met.
Yeah.
And then when we started dating as well.
Yeah, and it was really tough because like we were both evangelizing at our own parishes. I was working as a youth minister at the time. Later on in our relationship, which is like when we really started talking about it more, I would say. And you were involved very much in your parish, which was right down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I think there was a lot of learning to do there because we had our own separate parish lives and things like that, but also bringing that together because as you grow in a relationship, you're growing with each other and all of that.
But we have had some really good opportunities together.
We have.
I actually was thinking about this the other week because we were recently asked to come and speak at a parish together.
First time.
I know. And it caught me off guard,
to
be honest with you. Because, again, I always think what qualifies me. Like, I don't have a theology degree. I mean, you don't need a theology degree, but you need to be solid in your faith. So I feel like I'm going to lead people astray. But recently, we were asked to talk together later on the beginning of next year.
Yeah.
But we've also had other opportunities together, which it helps. I don't know if this is right or not, but it like reassures me in our relationship that if other people outside of just you and I and our families see that it's okay, that like other people are like, okay, they're evangelizing together. They have this, like, we see something holy in their relationship. It almost that we're going to ask them to talk together or even separately. It just kind of reassures me that we're doing something right.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely reassuring for me as well, especially when we were asked a couple weeks ago to that caught me off guard too. But
really?
Not as much because we've talked about it before. I had like been like, I told you this is gonna happen one day to us.
It didn't catch me. Well, hold on, it did catch me by surprise. I was really honored.
Yeah. Same.
But we've done evangelization together. Like we've done retreats together. We've met. I mean, we met
at a
Catholic retreat.
Yeah.
So that right there tells you something.
it does, but it's also like, okay, now we both had our own prayer lives or some sort of prayer going on and our own evangelizing, but coming together with that was so hard to navigate.
It's so different.
It is really, because
it is so different,
especially when you're talking about prayer too. It's something so personal. And
you mean praying together as a couple?
Yeah, praying together, because we were just having a conversation about this.
We pray so differently, you and I.
Yes, we do.
We pray very differently, which is a whole other thing to navigate and to figure out how to pray together that I never realized that until we started praying together. I was like, you pray in silence and you pray and then you pray with music. You have kind of like opposite spectrums.
Yeah.
You pray in complete silence with your eyes closed and not wanting to be bothered for 20 minutes. Or you pray with loud worship music on and your hands up in the air and singing along with it.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household that prays with your like recited prayers, your Hail Marys, your Our Father, your Rosary, and all of that. So for me, I learned from you. I never used to pray in the way you or practice prayer. And how would you even say that?
Pray in the same form or same type of prayer.
Yeah, so I learned from you, which was nice.
And
then the way we pray together is different. I feel like we had a compromise on like, not compromise. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Because that it wasn't an issue, I would say, of
we just
how do we pray together? Because it just naturally happened. But it was just like, should we be praying together? Because we're also like in this before we're officially dating, like in this weird in between phase. When you're like, oh, we're not friends, but we're not dating yet. When people were like, oh, I'm seeing someone, is what I've seen on Friends, at least. We love Friends.
It's our go-to show.
It is our go-to show. Some couples like The Office. A lot of couples like The Office. We don't. We like Friends. We like Friends. But it was just like we're doing that kind of beforehand, I would say.
Praying beforehand?
Yeah.
Together,
Yeah, that started early on. But at the same time, we got to conversations. It was like, should we be doing this? I think.
Well, which is interesting because we recently just had a conversation.
Yeah.
With, I don't know if I can say who it is, but we were recently having a conversation with somebody on when is the right time to start praying as a couple.
Yeah.
Which really caught me off guard because in my mind, I'm like, the sooner you can start praying together, the better.
Mm-hmm.
That's just with me. That's my thing, is like, whether it's in a friendship or relationship, whether it's with family, friends, whatever, I think the sooner you start praying, the better, because it is never too early to involve God and prayer in a relationship.
Exactly.
But is there a right time to start praying together? Because as as somebody mentioned before, it is a very personal thing to bring up, especially when you are praying together. So is there a right time? I don't know.
Well, when we talk about right time, I think it's different based off of situation, because our situation, we're both Catholic and we're both very strong in our faith and striving, and we're both constantly trying to grow and learn.
And that's one thing that kind of reassured me in us starting to date, is we would pray together.
Yeah. About should we even start dating? Should we start, because like dating is starting marriage. That's should we start discerning whether I want to marry this person?
And
or
I
not?
remember one time, and I don't know if it was like our first official date or like if we were still friends or like what was going on. I don't remember, and you'll probably remember. But we were sitting on the couch and we had like this real deep talk. And we prayed together, and it was like I think it was our first time praying together, but it was the first time that you said, hey, can I pray? Can we pray together?
Yeah.
And it was more than just like a Hail Mary, Our Father, whatever. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
And that for me was a moment for me before we officially started dating, when we were trying to see if this was something that we wanted to pursue or not, that you said, hey, I want to pray with you. And we started a whole, I don't know if it was a novena or not, but we started a whole thing of praying before we started officially dating. And for me, I was like, okay, we're doing something right here.
Yeah, because and we did get away from it for a while.
Yeah, but I think everybody has their highs and their lows. And of course, like when life gets to a certain place, sometimes we forget, and we shouldn't, but we do. And you just have to pick yourself back up and start over again and start praying. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with that, I remember it was super intense conversation, super intense conversation, and very beautiful. So many fruits to it. So many fruits from that conversation that I think we still discover even into 2+ years later. But when it comes to prayer and a relationship, it puts God at the center first. I think that was a big thing.
Oh yeah. And it was for me, it was the first relationship that I had that prayer was the center. And holy cow, it makes a difference. You don't think it does, but it does, because you're putting God at the center of your relationship, and just your relationship has a foundation of God.
Exactly. And I think that's the most important thing. The relationship was, the true foundation was on God, because we started
from the beginning.
I mean, we met at, it wasn't it's classified as a conference per se. It was a young adult conference. Yeah. And we were there, and literally, like, we didn't know at the time, but we were literally in adoration together.
Yeah.
Which is nuts to think about. I haven't thought about that before.
That we were at adoration together?
We were literally praying together in a huge room with a bunch of other people. We didn't know it at the time. But later on, we would end up dating this person for 2 years. That was probably all across in the same room, all across, with Jesus right there. And that's where it all started. And then later on that night, we meet.
Yeah. And
that truly is God at the center and the foundation. But there are a lot of relationships I've been in these. Well, not that I've been in them per se, but I've heard about them and things like that, of a relationship starting without that, and both people might be faith-filled.
Oh, I mean, I've started relationships like that prior to us dating, where you don't pray together. There's no God at the center of it, and what happens is they're rocky, because your foundation is.
It's not there. It's like building a house without the actual concrete foundation.
Yeah, on sand.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have to go try to put it back. And I'm not saying it's not possible,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely more difficult. So I would say, like, definitely start with prayer beforehand and during.
So right now we kind of did a cut.
Yeah.
Mom came in the room, and as many people might know, like Abraham's dad is had a series of strokes, and
Yeah, he was disabled in March of 2020.
so I think this is interesting because we were just talking about prayer and
Yeah.
all of that. And one thing that we had, and this links to Mom coming in the room,
Mm-hmm.
which is we struggled a lot in 2020 with our prayer life because of everything
Both of
going
us,
on
yeah.
with your dad in and out of the hospital and very high stress levels and all this. And we had to figure out, how do we pray now that our whole life is now, it's different, very, very different, specifically for you.
Both separately and
And we-
individually and together.
And we had to, I think both of us had to learn to offer up everything in our daily lives as prayer.
Yes.
And I think that was a little more difficult for you than it was for me.
Oh my gosh. Yes, because I had done what got me on like the 20 minutes that you mentioned earlier
Mm-hmm.
in this show was Exodus 90.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. I've done that twice so far. I actually want to do it again. I just loved it. I will recommend it to any
Yeah.
guy out there. Hit me up if you have any questions about it. I'll advocate. They don't sponsor me or sponsor the show or anything like that, but I'll always advocate for
It's
them.
an amazing program.
It's amazing. Definitely changed my life. It got me onto that and really on a prayer routine of sitting down and doing just sitting down and praying and
silent
and
time.
silent, because
Yeah,
I did
silent
not
prayer.
know how to pray in the silence at all.
Yeah.
But I had this whole hour long prayer routine. And I continued that after Exodus 90. But when all of this happened with my dad, and within that, I had days when I fell and didn't do it, or things like that, or it was shorter
But I
than an
remember
hour.
you would come to me and you would just be so upset. And I would ask, you would call me and you'd be like almost crying or just mad. And you'd call me and you wouldn't understand. You're like, why is all this happening? And I can't even find 3 minutes, 5 minutes to pray.
Yes.
And you would be so upset that you didn't have your prayer time.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for both of us, but I think a little bit more for you. Tell me if I'm wrong. And I had to constantly be reminding you, look, like these things you're doing for your dad, these things you're doing for your mom, it is a form of prayer that you can offer up. And I mean, do these little random acts of kindness. And I always think about Saint Therese and her sacrifice beads, and how, and growing up, I had these sacrifice beads that we would make every year.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Really? So Michelle and I, my sister and I, my mom, and I think it was about every year, because Saint Therese is my mom's absolute favorite saint, Saint Therese and Saint Francis. So our whole childhood was like revolved around habits that they did, that we would implicate into our life. And one was the sacrifice beads, and we would hold these every year. We would make a new one because they would fall apart, and we would hold these and like do little sacrifices and tick them off, like, and then you'd restart again. And so for me, when this all happened, I had forgot about that. But it reminded me, okay, I'm doing these little sacrifices. I need to make another pair of sacrifice beads now that I mentioned it.
I've never heard of these sacrifice
Really?
beads.
Do you know what they are?
No.
Really? Oh my gosh. Okay, this makes me so excited.
Okay, this is the point that we were making earlier. We learn about each other every day.
Okay.
Something new every day. I kid you not.
I need to look it up because it's been a while. I haven't had... Oh my goodness, this makes me so excited. Saint Therese, and I don't remember if it's a decade. I think it's a decade of the rosary, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
So it has an Our Father, so like your big bead, and then your decade.
Okay.
And then it has a cross. So it's a cross, Our Father, and then your Hail Marys. So 10 Hail Marys, Our Father.
10 Hail Marys.
Crucifix. And you hold it in your pocket whenever you do something without like a sacrifice for you. You don't say it, and you silently just slip a bead, and that's your prayer. That's your form of prayer.
So is it like a rosary bracelet, kind of?
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, it could be a rosary bracelet, but you like slip the bead to remind yourself that that you're offering that up as a prayer. So growing up, my mom gave us these, or we made them, and then we would hold them and we would slip them, and that was like some of my favorite form of prayer ever. So I had forgotten about that. Completely forgot about sacrifice
Till
beads.
just now.
No, until 2020,
Okay.
until all this with Dad was happening. And I would remind myself, and I would tick off things in my head.
I
Like-
didn't know that.
Really?
I did not know that. You've never told me that
And
before.
so whenever you would come to me and be like, hey, frustrated, I would tell you, offer them up.
Yes, and I still, to this day, am learning that. I still, like the other day in
You know what we're
confession.
going to do tomorrow?
What?
We're going to make sacrifice beads.
Okay, I'm down.
We're going to make sacrifice
Down.
beads because I have all the material.
Okay, we're doing it.
I love sacrifice beads. I could have sworn we've talked about
No,
them.
this
Really?
is first time.
Okay, we're going to
First
go.
time.
We're going to make them, and then it's going to be your new thing.
Okay.
You're going to love them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Deal.
Yeah.
But here's the point I was just trying to make. I'm still learning that. I'm still learning how to offer up as a prayer because
Yeah.
I'm getting back. I've gotten back to this week of just getting up early or some other point in my day because my prayer was always first thing in the morning at like 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm. See,
right, and now I lose sleep, right, and because of situations and things like that, and I don't always get up at 6 a.m. and whatever.
and
actually
it bothers
rarely
you.
do.
You'll call me in the morning.
It bothers me.
And you're like, I didn't pray. I didn't have my hour of prayer, 30 minutes of prayer.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, hold up. But why didn't you have it? You didn't have it because you were up all night with Dad helping Mom, which you should be.
Or I was doing homework, or I was just being dumb watching Netflix.
That too, which that's a problem.
Yeah.
But more when you're helping Mom and you're helping Dad, right now that is your form of prayer. So because you slept until 8 or 7, but you were up multiple times during the night, that is your prayer. So it's okay you didn't wake up at 6. You need to have at least 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep. So tick off those sacrifice beads.
Yeah, but here's the other point I'm trying to make. That doesn't mean that I shouldn't still be striving to get that other prayer in, right? And I am, but at different points of the day now, right? And even like with us as a couple too, we have this nightly prayer routine.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes one of us is so dead tired from just life that we just forget to call and say goodnight in prayer.
Or like last night. So
praying.
Yesterday, I have my own set of health issues. And so yesterday I had an allergic reaction to something. And it was a pretty bad allergic reaction. And so I was knocked out. My body was exhausted after we figured all of that situation
you finally calmed down.
And so I was out. And we didn't pray at all. And we've had a few moments like that, whether something on my end, something on your end, something, whatever happens. One of us we're knocked out and we don't get to say our nightly prayer. But then what is nice is the other one who is still awake and didn't pass out says the prayer for the both of us, which I think is really nice. And then in the morning, like this morning, I was like, hey, did you say the prayer for the both of us? I'm so sorry. But did you pray?
Yeah.
Did you offer me up?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a beautiful thing about it because I'll feel terrible about it.
Oh, me too. Because I really like our prayer time together.
Yeah, I do. And we don't do a long I would say saintly prayer, or like we're not like
hold on. I think any form of prayer is on the way to sainthood.
Yeah.
So to say that, I think is cutting ourselves a little short.
Or anybody.
A
little short.
We should extend our prayer life for sure as a couple, because it's with everything, especially with finals going on and all that, we've cut it kind of short.
Yeah.
It's Our Father, Hail Mary, prayer for vocations.
We haven't done the prayer for vocations in a while, but right now it's been Our Father, Hail Mary, and Saint Michael.
Okay.
That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, you're right.
But we were doing the prayer for vocations and then both doing your own prayers and things like that. But we shortened it, but we're still praying together. That's the point.
You brought up something earlier. Can I go back to something? So you brought up Exodus 90, and I think is very, you know where I'm going with this. I think that's interesting because you brought up Exodus 90 and it helped you with your prayer life. And for me, and I saw you do that. It's 90 days, if anybody doesn't know, and you can go into it. It's just 90 days of giving up certain things and working on your prayer life and working on you being a better person. And there's a lot of aspects to it, for sure.
Three pillars: prayer, asceticism, and fraternity. Go check them out. I'll link them in the description.
What's asceticism?
Asceticism is like basically...
Say the word again?
Asceticism.
Asceticism. What does that mean?
So that's basically like things that you're giving up to discipline yourself. So like one of them was like cold showers.
Yeah.
So we gave
or
up
no electronic or no social media.
No social media,
Yeah.
no TV, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's super extreme and it's super hard and it does not get easier each time you do it. It does not.
So go try it out.
Yeah. But go ahead.
Sorry. You were doing this
Yeah.
and you did this for 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it and I was like, I want to do that too. Wasn't too thrilled about it, but you really grew as a person, as an individual, separately from our relationship and together.
Yeah.
And you brought, I mean, it was just amazing. You grew a ton. And so then the next time you did it, I was like, I want to do it with you. And there's a
female version.
a female version of this called Fiat 90. And I did it with you. It's very hard. It is different. So the version for women is a little bit different. We don't have cold showers, but there's like other things you had to do.
Yeah.
We had to do.
And like the prayer for y'all had to like try to go daily mass, which it was encouraged to go to daily mass.
Yeah, we had to go to daily mass.
It wasn't like
I'm trying to remember because it was at the beginning of this year,
I think
right?
it was in 2019.
Okay.
At the end of 2019.
I'm trying to remember but it was very different. So, but what I saw from that and what I think is interesting is you started it. You did it by yourself for 90 days because you wanted
with a fraternity of guys, but
but you did it in our relationship.
Yeah,
you did it by
me.
yourself.
Yep.
And then I saw, and so you grew as an individual, and then I saw that, and I was like, okay, I want to do that because I saw you grow in your faith, in your relationship with God, in being a better boyfriend and being a better son, a better friend, all of that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do it. And so I did it, and then we grew together. And I thought it was very interesting because, I mean, that's what you're supposed to get out of a relationship, right? You're supposed to do something. I'm not going to word this correctly, but, grow in your faith and bring the other person along with you and want to grow as individuals and together. I mean, right? I mean, that's what a good relationship is. You want to bring each other up.
I'm going to refer back to an earlier episode early on from back when I started the show with Dan. He's one of my best friends. He was actually my anchor for half the first one due to certain circumstances. The back half of my first Exodus 90 and
keeping you accountable.
Yeah, keeping me. Yeah, so you have someone that's your accountability partner that's in your fraternity or your group of a sorority is what it would be.
But
for
I didn't
the
have
ladies.
one.
Yeah, you did with a few people, not a lot. But anyways,
I ended up actually bringing in somebody who wasn't Catholic who wanted to do it.
Yeah, and
my roommate. Yeah, and she and I did it. She ended up doing it for 30 days. I did it for the full 90, but she had kept me accountable for the full 90.
Yeah, exactly, and which was really cool to see.
Yeah,
because like she obviously didn't do the mass and the rosary and things like that, but it was really cool to see that.
Yeah.
We'll probably have to do another episode on that. But my point being was Dan mentioned in that episode with him, we were talking about community in Christ, but we mentioned it goes with relationships. Run to Jesus.
Oh yeah.
And look to your left and to your right and see who's running with you.
Oh yeah.
And
for sure.
It should be the exact same in your relationship. Exact same.
I think though too, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, specifically in 2020 with our relationship, is one of us falls and doesn't pray for a long time. Like things were going on with your dad, and you would just like forget to pray.
Slump,
yeah,
huge slump. And
then I would be really good in my prayer life, and then it would switch, and we kind of have this year in particular. We've gone back and forth. I feel like we have struggled to be like on the same prayer.
Level.
Yeah. And so we've had to like one of us push the other back and forth, which is good. So I think it's also it's good to remember that sometimes as a couple, we're not going to be on the same I don't know if level's the right
Yeah,
word.
level's probably not
It's
the
not
right
the right
word.
word, but like we're gonna have our difficulties in keeping up with prayer, and we're
Yeah.
gonna have difficulties in um in our faith. We're gonna question, and we're gonna have moments, but the other person needs to like push you in the right direction.
That's the beauty of having someone else.
Yeah, it is. But the reality that both of you are going to be at the same place is, I think, unrealistic because, like this year, I mean, you've had a lot with your dad,
Yeah.
a lot go on,
And
so
the year
you've had
beforehand, your family was having a lot going on too.
oh yeah, and yeah, the year beforehand, my dad had a lot going on, and I had a lot going on
Yeah.
with our health. So yeah, I mean, we've kind of gone back and forth, but it's good to remember that you're going to be pushing the other person in the right direction, and you need to allow yourself to be pushed when you need to get pushed.
Yeah.
And I think what is also interesting is this year when we weren't during the pandemic, when things started opening back up,
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't go anywhere. We were stuck, and everything was happening with your dad in the hospital, and a lot of uncertainties. And we went to mass every day for 3 months as a couple.
Oh my gosh.
Do you realize that? No,
Wow.
a little bit longer than 3 months, from May to August.
And you know the only reason why that stopped?
because we went back to school.
Yep. Only reason why that stopped.
And daily mass doesn't align, like,
Yeah, with
we
their school
can't.
schedules.
And so I feel like we had this beautiful opportunity with everything that was going on, and it was just awful. I mean, everything was falling apart around us. And it felt like the world was falling apart. It felt like family life was falling apart. It felt like we were struggling in our relationship because there was so much stress.
Yeah, it was pulling on our
And
relationship.
the
Yeah.
one thing we were able to do every single day was go to daily mass. And
Yeah.
I am so proud of us for that.
Yeah.
Like, looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh. Do you, like,
Yeah,
we
I
went
don't know.
to daily mass every single day and
Whenever-
Sunday mass every single day from May to August.
Yeah,
When school ended
yeah.
to when school started.
Yeah, when they
us.
opened the churches back up, because I was just like, I remember being so
We were
devastated
I'm so
when
proud of us.
when the churches weren't
Yeah.
opened, because that's when there was a pandemic still going on, right? But there was a pandemic going on, and then my dad was in the hospital for a long time. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if he was gonna make it to the next day.
Oh yeah.
Every
and every
night.
day was a new stress. Like a new stress level
Exactly.
that we're like, wait, I didn't know that could happen, or we could
Mhm.
feel
I didn't
that
know this
new
possibility
emotion,
was there,
or that, yeah, whatever. Yeah, and so I was like, whatever that stress level was, it was brand new, but we were always guaranteed that somehow we made it to daily mass every single day, and we were going to confession like once a week or once every other week, and daily mass, and we were saying so many rosaries, and we did
my gosh,
so many
rosaries.
novenas.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, we've always done novenas because that's one of my favorite ways of praying. But specifically during that chunk of time, I think we were struggling. We feel like we were struggling with prayer, because I think for me, I felt like I was struggling with prayer.
But
and
were we though?
I know. Like right now, I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But at the same time, you need that prayer life separately and together.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
for sure.
we should be still striving for that. We look back on it and we're super proud of ourselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm someone who I'm my own worst critic, so I'm gonna be like, there's more I could have been doing.
I mean, there's always more you can be doing. Yeah, and you're right. You are your own worst critic, and we are harder on ourselves, I think, than maybe the average person, which is something we need to work on.
Yep.
But as individuals, but I know, looking back, I just realized that. I mean, I think for me, I would say my worst point of prayer was during that time, but
Yeah, it was better than we thought.
yeah,
Definitely. And I want to say one thing regarding Exodus and Fiat,
mm-hmm.
because there was struggles definitely when
for sure.
when I was going through it by myself, and you weren't the first time I did Exodus, and you were still there, able to have whatever you want to eat. I would have my fasting days.
Oh, and I was able to watch TV. You weren't allowed to watch TV.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But then when we were in it together, you were
and
like,
that brought a little bit of strain.
oh yeah,
It brought a little bit of strain.
a little bit of strain. And afterwards, I would say also during that first one, that's when I really stopped being a boy and started to grow into a man. I think I'm still growing into it to becoming a man.
Mm-hmm.
But it brought strain, but it brought a lot of good at the end.
Well, and I think it was good strain.
Is
there
good.
such thing as good strain? Because I feel like it was challenges. It brought good challenges.
Yeah.
Because like the whole TV and things you weren't allowed to eat. And it was like, okay, we need to find something else than watching a movie or watching a TV show.
We actually have to sit down and have a conversation.
And we're really good about having conversations. So I don't think, for us, at least, that's a weak point in our relationship for sure. But we kind of have a pattern to our dates by this point.
Yeah.
We're going to eat. We're going to have conversation. We're going to talk about whatever. We tend to have really long discussions for a long period of time. But now, let's sit and watch an episode of Friends.
Yeah.
Or now, let's sit and watch a movie or whatever and just kind of relax. Okay, and now one of us is going home. And that's kind of just how we've been doing our dates for a while now.
But it changed.
It was like, okay, now we're going to go to adoration. Or now we're going to say a rosary. Or now we're going to have like some theological discussion. And that brought some really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then especially when you joined in with me as well. Because
the second time.
Yeah, the second time. Because, again, that we understood each other much more. And it was just like, oh, I'm in it with you.
Well, and I think it was also like, I understand what you're going through and you understand what I'm going through. In this form of prayer. We're doing it separately. So we were doing separate forms of prayer, but we were each other's cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Cheerleaders at that point. So, like, hey, don't forget to do this. Okay, thank you for reminding me. Hey, I struggled with this today. Oh, I did too. Okay, we're on the same page. We both struggle with the same thing. Okay, I'm not alone. And knowing that putting in an hour of prayer today was difficult or whatever that may be. I know one thing for me was, okay, we weren't supposed to gossip in Fiat 90, which for girls, I think that's more difficult. My family calls me the chisme mobile.
Chisme
conductor.
means like gossip in Spanish for those of you who are not Spanish speakers.
Chisme mobile.
I'm not a Spanish speaker.
The conductor of a chisme mobile.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was really difficult. So you would catch me. I was like, hey, do you know what this person said today? Or do you know what this happened? Or Facebook. Or no, I wasn't allowed on Facebook. But it was like what happened with
in
like
class
school
or something.
Like whatever. Mom told me this. Michelle told me this.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. This is happening. And you're like, hey, okay, is that a form of gossip? And I would have to sit back and be like, okay, am I just relaying information or am I gossiping? And I have to think about it. Like, okay, no, I'm just telling you something. It's not gossip. Or, yes, I am. So how do I change my way of thinking? And it was nice because you would remind me. And then I would remind you about whatever you were
for
having
Exodus.
to do.
Yeah, if I was just like, oh, watching the Bible series on Netflix and you're like, are you really supposed to be doing that?
Yeah.
You were like, I know it's biblical, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. But let's go back to the evangelization.
Okay.
Because I think that was a huge there was a huge battle there.
What do you mean?
Especially when I started working as a youth minister.
Okay.
I almost had a desire for you to completely switch parishes.
I know where you're going with this. Okay.
And not completely switch parishes, but at the time I didn't realize that would put a huge strain on you time-wise to come all the time to where I was working. But it would have. But it's a huge step.
What do you mean?
To come into a place where your boyfriend's doing ministry.
Well, yeah, and the thing too that it brought a little bit of strain in our relationship, and we had to have some conversations. I don't know
a lot
if you were ready for, but it was like, okay, I'm not comfortable. You wanted me to come and speak to your teens about whatever, and I was like, I'm not comfortable doing that because we hadn't just started dating.
We're dating for
but we were like 6 months. I think 6 months. Really? A year?
Yeah. Because I started in the fall. We were about to hit a year.
Okay. So we were a year into dating, and I feel like that's a pretty big step. don't know. And maybe we need to get other people's opinion on this, Catholic couples. But it's a pretty big step when you bring your significant other into your ministry. So
Yeah.
what is a good time? What's a good time to bring your boyfriend, your girlfriend into your ministry? Because
Well,
I don't know.
Well, we had also done ministry together before, but that was even still like we'd even had a conversation because that was very early on in our relationship when I had come in.
You led worship.
Yeah, I was hired to lead worship for a retreat for
that was my home parish that I was volunteering at as a youth minister or as a small group leader.
Yeah, and I was still learning
retreat.
you a lot.
Oh yeah.
And that was actually during my first Exodus 90.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was. Because remember, Dan and I were like just sitting there like suffering one night.
Suffering?
Not suffering, but like we were offering it up. The fact that like we couldn't have the sweets or something like that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was a challenge because some of the other guys were just like flaunting it. They're being jerks, but it's okay. It was.
So you were leading
funny.
worship,
Yeah,
and that was my home parish, so I was obviously involved in the high school.
Yeah.
Youth ministry.
That was I don't know.
Yeah, we learned a lot.
We learned a lot.
Yeah.
Because you ended up running sound for me.
Mhm.
And for the band that I was leading.
Unexpectedly.
Yeah, unexpectedly. So it was I don't know. I don't know how to describe that.
Well, I think it was interesting because I went as a small group leader and I helped with the retreat, and all of that. And you went to lead worship. And so we were actually learning. We were still in the phase of our relationship. We were learning each other just in general.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went and it was kind of I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But there was definitely some
Well, there was some awkwardness. There was some because when I'm working, and that was my first time actually running a band too. Completely.
I was thinking
in
more along the lines of. I'm trying to think of how to word this because I don't even know how to form these thoughts in my head. Give me a second. I think you had a vision in your head of how you wanted to be a couple leading.
Mm-hmm.
You know what okay.
Oh,
you
yeah.
could probably word this better than me.
So, okay, my desire at the time definitely did was.
You have this image in your head of
I
how
do,
you want us to evangelize together, and you've had this in your head before we ever met. This is what you want your relationship to be.
This is what I want.
Or not your relationship, but our relationship to be. And I felt, and I do too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. But I felt like there was all these expectations that you put on me.
Yes.
On us. And I was very overwhelmed. And we had to have 100%. A whole conversation about this.
Before, during, and after.
Because I was like, hold up. What do you, hold on. We need it. Yeah.
You're like, we need to set some ground rules before we even go.
Yeah. And then during and then after, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah. It was a huge learning moment. And now
which is good.
It's very good.
It's good. And I'm very happy you came into the relationship wanting that.
Yeah.
For sure. Because I didn't. And you brought that in with you. And I was like, I like that. Okay. Yeah, I agree.
But I'm someone who jumps into things just blindly sometimes.
With evangelizing?
With just anything. I'll jump into.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Whatever. I'm
for
very
sure,
wild
and I
at
have
heart.
to think about things for a long time, which is interesting because I wasn't that way beforehand. But the older I get, the more I want to think about things before I jump into whatever it is. So going back to evangelizing, specifically with the first time we evangelized or served together.
Yeah, we served together on a retreat in some way, shape, or form. It
was interesting. And so then the second time we served together, and then all the times after that, which we've done quite a few, is
they've just gotten easier, I would say.
Yeah, which I think is interesting because I don't think I would have ever thought that you had to learn the other person's way of evangelizing or the way of the other person, how they evangelize or how they I don't know.
Well, okay. Here's what I'm thinking right now. Like, you have to learn their form of prayer,
Yeah.
and I think that also someone's form of prayer bleeds over to the way they talk to other people about Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and bleeds over to the way they like live their life.
Because, okay, so then afterwards, I don't know if this was before or after we did this retreat together,
Mhm.
but we were both asked separately, but knowing that we were dating. People knew we were dating, but they asked us to, at University of Houston, they asked us to, what would you call that?
Oh, to be on literally like I'll call it like literally like the evangelization team, like
Yeah.
student-led evangelization
And
team.
we
or
went through
something
like
that.
a whole program. Was it a semester or 2 semesters? Went through a whole program to get, not,
Which we
what
both
it's not called certified, but what is it called?
I don't know, but
Like, we went through a training process.
to be small group leaders basically.
I mean, it wasn't really small group leaders. I don't know how you would explain it.
I think they're a
But
small group. I'm
you
not
think
sure.
so?
Yeah.
We never went through with it because then we both ended up
Not going to
not
U of H
going to U of
anymore.
H. We went to U of H for a year, and then we both got called out of it.
And going to 2 separate universities.
Two completely, and now we're at 2 different universities. But what I thought was interesting is we started that.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting process together too.
Yes. Because we were going through this all at the same time. So
That,
I think
for me, was very.
we got a lot of growth through all these experiences that a lot of couples won't get until they're like 5-6 years down the road,
I wouldn't
and maybe
say that.
even married.
I wouldn't say that, because every relationship's different.
Yeah, every relationship's different, but how many we had? Think about it. We had so many opportunities to evangelize together.
Yeah, we
that
have had a lot.
Like, think about it. The
We've had a
average
lot.
couple, how would they?
Well, it depends on the setting they have.
Yeah.
We are blessed that we are both very active in our
Mhm.
parishes prior to ever meeting each other.
Yeah.
And enjoy what we're doing. And people obviously keep coming to us, so we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Separately, and now that people know that we're together, we've gotten asked to do things together. At University of Houston, we got asked separately, but knowing that we were together, I mean, we got asked at my home parish, and we recently got asked to do something together at another parish.
Yeah.
And we've gotten asked multiple times to do other things.
Which you eventually did come and like hang out with my teens when I was
Oh,
when
yeah,
I was a youth
yeah.
minister
And
too.
then we did, and again, knowing, and we did a lock-in with them together, which was a whole other experience. And then,
That was really
and
cool.
then
though.
doing
Yeah.
my favorite. This is my favorite.
Okay, what was it?
My absolute favorite is when we did, I think it was 2019. Yeah, 2019, we led the Stations of the Cross
Oh,
together.
yeah.
My absolute favorite, because you did all of the music and you led the whole youth with the music, and then I did all of the acting, and I led all of the acting, and
Yeah, you were the
preparing
director.
the teens for preparing them for the live stations.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was so fun for me,
Yeah.
what was so much fun is you would do it, I would do it, and then we would have a date, multiple dates
Yeah.
in a row. We would get together like 3 or 4 times
And talk
in
about
a
the
week,
music
and we
the
would sit
acting.
in the
Yeah.
studio, and we would just plan the entire thing together. And I was like, okay, what if we did this, and you did this with the music, and then the actor or the teen was playing Mary did this, and then Jesus did this, and then whatever happened back and forth. And I really wish we would have another live Stations of the Cross like that. I really hope so. I don't know if we're ever going to get that again.
Yeah.
Right now because of COVID, but afterwards I feel like...
Is it going to pick back up or not? We don't know.
Well, and I feel like at this point, I'm about to graduate college, so that's going to take me on another path. I really hope I can.
Yeah.
I really hope I can. And I really hope you will have the time too. But I think that kind of just fit really perfectly. You had the time, I had the time, and we both did that together. Actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but since I was little bitty, I had always gone to the live stations at my parish, at my home parish.
Mm-hmm.
And from really little, I'm not somebody who really... I love making lists, but I'm not somebody who has like a bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my things since I was little bitty, like little bitty,
Yeah.
was I want to be the one who puts that together on my bucket list. Like, it was on my top
think you did tell
5
me
things
that.
I want to do before I die.
Yeah.
Was put on, like, not be in charge of the stations, but like help with the stations.
Yeah.
And then to get to do that with you was just
Yeah. But like
incredible.
the huge thing here is like that I came in with this vision, and it's a vision that I had for a while, ever since I felt the call to go do ministry and go do worship and try to center my life around that.
What?
This vision of how I want my relationship to be within evangelization and things like that.
Okay.
And
Like before we ever met.
Yeah, way before we ever met.
Mm-hmm.
Since I was like 16 or 17,
Mm-hmm.
which was really young. But I tried to force it when it needed to happen naturally, and God gave us
Within our
opportunity-
relationship? Yeah.
When God gave us opportunities to let that happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes, like, sometimes I have to, like, you know, push you a little bit and things like that.
That
but
just goes
like,
with trying to, like, learning the other person as an individual.
Exactly. But then through that, recently, before we hit our 2 years, we were just like, what's the purpose of this relationship?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What is our goal?
So yeah, in January we had a moment before all this pandemic stuff. I think it was before pandemic, right? Tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Where we had it. Yeah, it was. It was in January.
Okay.
For the new year, we were like, we need to consecrate our relationship. We've never done that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was new. I didn't ever think that was something that could be done. I guess I've never thought of that before.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, yeah, we should consecrate our relationship. I was like, oh, okay.
So we just jumped in and did it.
And we looked it up, and we found what that exactly meant. And for me, at least, I think you already knew what that meant.
Yeah,
I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, we used a book that I had been given by my youth minister, Rebecca Jonkowski. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And we used that book, the 33 Days of Morning Glory, and then we also did, I think it was at the beginning of this year or it was in 2019, but we also did a 54-day novena. Those were huge, life-changing.
So at the end of the 54 novena is when we consecrated our relationship, which was for us meant that like that.
Was it? I thought we did 33 days to Morning Glory. I thought we did two separate things.
We did do separate things. I don't remember, but at the end of one,
it was 33 days to
was
Morning
it?
Glory. Yeah.
That we were like, okay, this is offering up everything for our relationship, and we're gonna officially like have a moment. Even though I think we've already had this without saying it, but we're gonna have a moment together where we are lifting up our relationship to God.
Yeah.
And if we're supposed to be together, and of course for us, at least, our end goal of our relationship is to get married, to discern marriage, and if this is not what's meant to be, then it's not what's meant to be.
Exactly.
And
like
if it is meant to be,
up.
yeah, and if it is meant to be, then it is meant to be. But we're gonna lift and consecrate our relationship to God in the hopes of whatever it's supposed to end up, that in the process we are doing what God wants.
Yeah.
And at the end, if we're supposed to get married, then that we have a holy marriage and we have a holy dating life. And if we're not supposed to get married and God has other plans for us, then that process before we go our separate ways is leading us up to the Lord. So.
Exactly. And yeah, I think that's one thing that a lot of people forget when they get deep into a relationship, and we've talked about it recently too, of just like we could still break up.
Yeah.
We are still discerning.
Yeah. Until
vows are said.
Yeah. Even after like you get engaged or whatever, you at any moment
you were still
God can
discerning
call you
until
out.
vows are said.
Yeah. Which I think is like you have to remember. Which hold on, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got you on a sidetrack because I know where you were going with this, and I took you back to we consecrated, and then recently that's where you were going. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, in January we consecrated our relationship, and then recently
we were talking about what the heck are we doing? What's our purpose?
What do you mean? What the heck are we doing? We know what we're doing.
We know what we're we don't know what we're doing. We're not like experts. We're not relationship experts.
No.
But we
had another moment.
We had another moment of just like I had seen the show with Edmund Mitchell. I watch it fairly regularly, and I saw him and his wife talk about they had a mission statement for their family. I was just like, why not just have a mission statement for our dating relationship right now? And if we get married later on down the road, we can develop one for, us as a married couple, and if
If we have a family,
Yeah.
then maybe it changes. Or,
Yeah, exactly. So, but right now we're just like,
we should have a mission statement.
yeah, we should have a mission statement. Like, thank you, Edmund Mitchell. You
Yeah.
don't know me at all, but thank you.
Yeah. We need to have a mission statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kelly gave me a book for our 1 year on our 1 year anniversary, so we could journal about each and every year. You did,
Yeah.
right? And at the we still haven't done it. We need to sit down and do it.
We need to do year 1 and year
Yeah,
2.
we need to do year 1 and year 2. We're so bad. But at the front on
It's the thought that counts.
the front of the book, we wrote this mission statement.
Yeah.
And it's, does it serve a purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Does it bring joy? And does it help us get to heaven?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it help us get to sainthood?
And so now we kind of look at what we're doing, and if it's not covering all 3, like all 3 questions, then okay, we don't need to be doing whatever.
Yeah, and there's like a sliding scale per se, but like those are 3 questions that like you can ask yourself with like anything, especially with a relationship. Like, is this relationship helping me to get to heaven? Is a biggest one, I would say. Like, is it helping me get to heaven? Like, is it serving a purpose? Basically, is it serving the purpose of discerning marriage? Should I be discerning marriage with this person? And then, is this relationship bringing joy, or is it tearing me down as well?
Yeah.
You know, because if it's, if a relationship's not covering all 3 of those,
yeah,
then it's time to call it quits or not.
And not in that order.
Yeah.
So I think you did them out of order. I think it was backwards. I think
okay.
I could be wrong, but right? Because the first one is, does it help you get to heaven? Does it help you strive for sainthood?
Yeah,
is the first one.
I wrote it backwards on there so that getting to heaven is a foundation. Basically.
Oh yeah.
So that's how we look at it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So I mean, it's one sentence, then the second, and then yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
that made no sense. It made sense in my head.
Exactly.
And I know what I was trying to say.
This is we're at the end of this episode now, but this is obviously for couples who are both are Catholic, right? We
both are Catholic. What?
Like both the man and the woman or guy and girl, however you want to say it, are Catholic, right? We can't speak from our experience, at least, or my own, of if one's
not Catholic.
Catholic,
okay, I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to say
doesn't have a faith at all.
If somebody's dating and one of them is
Yeah.
Catholic and the other one isn't. Okay,
Not that those relationships can't work either.
Oh,
I've seen them and heard them work beautifully, and God's light still able to shine through. But yeah, that's who this really pertains to. I would say.
But I think you could even. I think even if one of you is Catholic and the other one isn't, you can bring all of this into the relationship. It's just gonna be a little different. It's just gonna work out a little bit differently. But I think everything we've talked about today can be brought into a relationship.
Well, I would say
not Catholic. I
would say more if it's like someone who, like, for a Christian couple is where everything could be brought in. Now, if someone's not Christian at all, that's completely different, I would say, because then you're dealing with another faith or someone who doesn't even have faith at all. So there's a lot of roads. Take this with a grain of salt, because like we said, we don't know everything.
No, we don't, and we're constantly learning.
Yeah, we're constantly learning.
We've had some aha moments here.
I think we should do a bloopers episode one day. I don't know, but yeah, that's the end of this episode. That's the end of season 1 of this podcast. All right, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. That is the end of this episode and this season of the Abraham Salas Show. Hopefully, we can come back with a better name, because I don't like using my own name. But thank you so much,
we
honey.
can decide over Christmas break.
Yeah, maybe I'll put a poll out. We'll see. We'll come up with some ideas and put a poll out.
You should ask for suggestions.
Yeah, give suggestions. DM me suggestions and put them in the comments below. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, honey.
Thank you for having me.
This
was fun. This was a lot. It was a lot.
It is a lot of fun.
But it was a lot of information.
It is.
We had a couple of aha moments, which was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Tell us also if you want Kelly to come join me on more episodes or maybe even co-host.
What?
Ooh.
Oh no.
I'm kidding. But no, tell Kelly that she's awesome and that she's amazing and that she's beautiful and all of that. And if you can't see her, tell her that her talking voice sounds beautiful.
Oh my goodness. I just realized I have to hear myself talk.
Yes, you do. All right. Thank y'all so much for joining us, and we will see y'all in season 2. Hey, one quick thing. If you are a patron and have access to the exclusive interviews, go over to Patreon right now to see the exclusive interview with Kelly and her testimony. Bye.
Bye.